speak on this month's topic of prayer and meditation.
Good morning, everybody. Last Sunday, was that last Sunday? The 19th. We had a renewal ceremony for the chaplains. And the chaplaincy group is part of who we are, and we create this service. And in our meeting subsequent, one of our decisions was, because of this month's topic, let's, as a chaplain group, talk about what is affirmative prayer and what is this 5-step method that Ernest Holmes teaches. And so we were kind of maybe going to do a collective, we'll all have a little input, and then it seemed a little clumsy or undoable or whatever, and I was asked, well, would you just do it? So here I am with an assignment to cover affirmative prayer and what that is. And however, I thought, make it personal. What has this prayer journey been for me? So I just want to make sure I cover that. So if I forget, just say, hey, what about the 5 steps? So make sure we get that covered. And we do have that wonderful flyer that Mike put together. In our Spiritual Center little card, we have our mission statement, and then we have a couple of we believe, we affirm statements. God expresses through us as us. That certainly is a central idea of how we approach prayer. That in fact I am connecting with a higher power and then letting it express through me. We positively affect change in our lives and in our world through love and affirmative prayer. So the idea around affirmative prayer is indicating a shift from traditional prayer, which tends to be more of a prayer of beseeching, a prayer of asking. And I really realize that no prayer is wrong, that any prayer is an attempt to connect with a higher power, to have a conscious contact. And whatever level anybody is on, that's where to start with. And so asking God for peace, asking God for abundance, asking is a place to start very often in our consciousness, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think we're all here because we're spiritual seekers, and we're sort of knowledge and insight is something we're always open to and wanting to progress in our spiritual understanding of our relationship to spirit. Affirmative prayer, basically, well, this month, we had 3 amazing speakers. We had Janine first, who just, gives enthusiasm a new meaning. And she basically said thought plus feeling equals demonstration. This whole thing of get feeling into it and affirm it and see it as already happened. And then Mark was talking about this whole idea of we're not on our journey to get closer to God because we are already completely connected, and it's just is releasing the things that obstruct my sense of total oneness with my higher power. And then Becca talked about keeping the high watch. Becca comes from the Unity tradition, and the high watch is really getting to a higher place through prayer and affirmation, from which I can see through the eyes of God, see as God does, see the perfection of all things. Actually, Unity has an interesting, slightly different variation of the steps in prayer. They begin, step 1 is relaxation. Just be in the here, be in the now, relax your body. And then concentration, which is hold some idea of the highest relationship you can find with your higher power. And then meditation, which is a moment of silence, of just feeling the experience of this oneness. And then at the end is realization, something you can know for yourself, a truth you can claim, and then appreciation. Fundamentally, it's the same thing, but there's a great emphasis just on relaxation and coming into the present moment. So, you know, I was fascinated when I was initially exposed to this teaching with this idea of you create your reality. You can get clear about what you see, you can see it as already accomplished, you can let go, and it will start to manifest. And I was like, yes, I want that. I got lots of things I would like to have in my life. And it had an aspect of getting in it, but it was intriguing. Neville Goddard, who wrote The Power of Awareness and many books, he died in 1972, but about the same time he lived as Ernest Holmes, said, "The changes which take place in your life always appear to the unenlightened to be the results of chance, outer causes, or coincidence, not a change in your consciousness. The ideal you seek and hope to attain will not manifest itself, will not be realized by you until you have imagined that you already are that ideal." So that was, I get it. But there's still the timidity of, dare I really say that's already achieved? How do I get there? But, you know, there's an inner sense of, yeah, that makes sense. And Emmett Fox then goes on to this idea of, he talked about the golden key in a lot of his work, and the technique which simply states, stop thinking about your problem and instead rehearse everything you know about God. And that very much is the first step of affirmative prayer, which is recognition. So in the first step, and that could be your entire prayer, is just sit and be still and sense this presence and recite to yourself what you know about this presence. Actually, a book that I am currently intrigued with called I Am That I Am by Francis Bennett. Wayne Dyer talked about it being one of his favorite books. He states, relax into the silence of just sitting. After a few minutes of silently sitting there, focus on God dwelling within your heart as the very ground of your being, in the simple consciousness, now I am. This is your most basic primary sense of simple presence, which is the silent awareness of just being. This simple sense of being present now is not separate from the presence of God within you. Peacefully abiding in a silent interior gaze of love for God, dwelling within you as that I am, which is always present. So that is something that I get on a very personal level, and that is the meditation, the prayer that most appeals to me. And I feel very comfortable with that, just sitting, dwelling, reflecting on the nature of spirit, the nature of God. So, because my 10 minutes is limited, and I have other quotes and things, but I need to get to my primary objective here. So this is the sheet that's in the back that you can get. So the first one, recognition, is this huge thing of just relaxing and contemplating the nature of spirit. And as we said in the song, expressing in me, in each of one, as you, in us. What was that word? In us, as us. Yeah? Through you, through me, through you, the Spirit of God. Yes, this idea that, so that's part of the contemplation, is that I am an expression of that. I am that. So that's the unification, which is the second part. After contemplating the nature of spirit, then and the nature of spirit really could be life, love, wisdom, power, order, peace, joy, abundance, goodness. And actually, Charles Fillmore has the 12 powers, a beautiful description of the 12 qualities that are the nature of God. And so then the second step, unification, I am one with that. I am that. I am whole. I claim and assert my divine identity. And then, so the third step is the one where I get a little nervous because it feels a little me. It's about me, which is declaration, something I know for myself, which is any area where there's a sense of lack, affirming that spiritually, if I am an expression of the divine, that lack is an appearance, but it's not the truth. And so abundance, if I'm feeling financial insecurity, declaring that abundance is the nature of who I am, and it's the nature of the universe, and I identify with that. And so that part of it is actually a huge step in New Thought, of claiming it. And then the other part, as Janine said, thought plus feeling. So feeling. So I get to contemplate what it feels like to be fully abundant, to come from a place of complete abundance. And in my personal journey, this discomfort with praying to God for getting things has really shifted into realizing that being the fullest expression of me is the greatest service to others. The ultimate goal is to be of service. And so I'm not just hoping to get things to be happier for myself. I want to be the greatest expression of me so that I can be of greatest service in the world and for others. So all of a sudden, it feels very divine in nature. It feels part of the flow. And personally, I find myself able to fully put myself behind this idea of not buying into my limitations, but really imagining the highest version of myself. And there is another step that we don't include, but that can sometimes be done, and you'll hear it in some people's prayers, which is denial. So sometimes we have to do a little self-talk of like, any doubt and fear I now let go of. I know there's no truth to it. We can let go of things that interfere with the experiencing of this good that we're imagining. So then the fourth step, thanksgiving, that is in a way the biggest, the huge part of all of this. You know, who was it? Meister Eckhart said, if there's one prayer I only said, it would be sufficient, and that would be thank you. This idea of just thank you. And part of the thank you is the realization that I live in a universe of spiritual law and order, and that I know about this, and that I can tap into it, and that in fact I don't have to run the universe. There's a universe that's already running, and I just have to find out how the law works and tap into it. The gratitude for being connected and part of something greater than myself. And then the release part is also a huge part. Like, I give it to God. It's yours now. This whole thing of like turning it over, letting go, it's in the hands of my higher power. So there we have the steps, but in closing, because I'm getting the rap sign, I will read you one thing that Ernest Holmes wrote that is like huge to me. It's so beautifully stated. So just bear with me as I read this. This is from The Science of Mind. The first principle fundamental to the understanding of the operation of thought is that we are surrounded by an infinite intelligence. The possibility of healing physical disease, changing environment, attracting friends, and demonstrating supply through the power of right thinking rests entirely on the theory that we are surrounded by an infinite mind, which reacts to our thought according to law. We do not create. We use the power of the one mind, which creates for us. Our beliefs and our deep-seated convictions invariably outpicture and reflect themselves in our experiences and environment, both in the physical condition of the body and in the larger world of our affairs. What we outwardly are and what we are to become depends upon what we are thinking, for this is the way we are using creative power. The sooner we release our mind from the thought that we have to create, the sooner we shall be able to work in line with Spirit. Always, man uses, he never creates anything. The united intelligence of the human race could not make a single rosebud. But our thought, centered in mind, is using the creative power of the universe. So there we have it. We tap into a power greater than ourselves. There is a power in the universe for good, and I can use it. So this is what we are achieving, and I encourage you at the end to pick up one of those 5-step prayer treatment sequences, and also remind you, however you pray, conscious contact with a higher power, whatever it is for you, it's perfect. So thank you, everybody.